Hey everyone, this is our third live in our Saturday Streams Q&A series. You can feel free to start asking questions about university, high school, applications, anything, and we can start answering them and hopefully helping you guys and recommending any helpful resources. This is a new series we're starting called Saturday Streams. And so every Saturday from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be doing live streams for 1 hour and trying to help you guys as much as possible and answering all of your questions. Yeah. Just to briefly introduce ourselves for anyone who's new, we're Project Uni. We help high school students by connecting them with advice, resources, and mentors to kind of help them navigate the post-secondary application process. And we basically tackle university applications, mostly Canadian university applications. And we're here to answer any questions that you might have. Oh, also, while we're getting started, I'd like to let you guys know about our new YouTube channel that we just started. We're going to be uploading educational, productivity, and lifestyle content on there. So if you guys are interested in that, feel free to check it out in the link in our bio. And once we get some questions going, we'll start answering them. And we can start helping you guys and, answering any questions that you might have. Right about now in the admissions process, you guys should hopefully have received your OUAC pins, and hopefully you guys are, have submitted your applications. If not, don't worry, it's still early. Right about now is the time when you should be thinking about submitting your OUAC applications, or maybe you've already started your supplementary applications. What do you think grade 12s should do during the summer before university? My advice would be just to relax. You finished this huge chapter in your life of high school, and so this is like the one long period of time that you'll have to relax before university starts. And university can be a huge jump, like going from 10-month school year and 2 semesters to having 5 courses done in 4 months. It's a big jump in terms of content and pace. So I would recommend taking the summer to relax. But if you don't want to, a lot of people want to be, productive or do something with their time. You could start volunteering or maybe tour your campus or do something like that. But overall, just take this time to relax. Like, you made it, you did it. And now you can have fun before university. Once you've applied to university, can you change your high school courses? Yes, you can. If you're in Ontario and you're applying via OUAC, if you decide to do a course change or a course switch for this semester or second semester, then your guidance counselor will be responsible for submitting that information to OUAC and they'll update it. Do you know what program to apply to and what institution? That depends on what you're interested in going into. Are you interested in engineering? Are you interested in commerce, health sciences? Let us know and maybe I can direct you to a good program. How many programs do you recommend to apply to? What I would recommend is having at least 2 safety programs. So safety programs means any program that is relatively easy to get into and that your grades are well within the grade range for that program. And so at least you can have a guarantee, if all goes wrong, you might still get into that program and, have that as a backup. So safety/backups. And also your backups can be usually universities that are really close to home in case you need to stay close to home. 2 safeties, and then probably like your top 3 programs. For me, when I was in high school, I made the mistake of applying to a lot of programs, too many, and so I would recommend that you apply to like 5 to 7 max and have those 2 safeties. What if I don't get an offer or accepted? You're not alone in this. There's a lot of students that have that anxiety and that fear of like, what if I don't get an offer? What if I don't get accepted? And so first of all, I want to just start off by saying that don't worry. Like if you work hard and you dedicate yourself to your grades and your like sub-apps this year, then you hopefully will get accepted into a program. But if worse comes to worse and you don't, you could always do a victory lap, or like they used to call it like grade 13, where you do an extra year and you get your grades up and then you can reapply to universities again. So if you don't get an offer or accepted in the first round, then you can do that. Or you could apply to programs that start in the spring. So some programs start in the fall, which is what you're typically applying to right now. But if you don't get accepted, you can apply for programs starting in the spring. What if you're not interested in anything? What would be a good program? That's a great question, Isabella. And I actually have a great program to recommend for this. So there's a really unique program at Waterloo called KI. It's a very small program. And so what it is, it's basically knowledge integration. So if you're not really sure what you want to go into or like what field you're interested in, knowledge integration basically allows you to explore a bunch of fields and a bunch of like different topics all within your program. And the nice thing about it is that it's a pretty small program. I think it's only like 100 students. And so everyone gets really close and like the faculty all know your name. And it's really great for, if you are not sure what you want to do. Let's see. What's the next question? Would you recommend taking a general arts year for first year if you don't know what you want to do? Yeah, sure. Because typically what general arts means is that you take it like as a general. There might be some certain like required courses, but other than that, you pretty much have the freedom to take any courses that you want within the arts department. And they're like, if you're interested in multiple majors, let's say you're interested in a political science major, but you're also interested in a philosophy major, there are typically some courses that you're required to take if you want to continue with that major. But you can take as many courses as you want for different majors, and then like once you find, like for example, if you find that you really like your philosophy class and you want to major in philosophy, as long as you take that philosophy class, then you qualify to be a philosophy major. And then in your second and third year, you can take more philosophy related classes and major in that. And typically universities also offer minors, dual degrees. So if you have really like varied interests, then there's always options for you. Like don't ever feel like you have to limit yourself to one thing. You can do a general degree and then specialize as you go. So I would definitely recommend like looking into your university, whether they offer those minors, those dual degrees, whether you're allowed to take a bunch of like courses, like whatever courses you want in first year, or whether they have like a bunch of mandatory courses. So yeah, I would recommend looking into that. How do you get more exposed to different occupation fields, such as engineering? So I'm assuming you are in high school, and so I get it might be difficult to do that. But one thing that schools offer is something called a co-op program, which you can do in grade 11 and 12. And basically what it is either for like a full semester or like half of your day of a semester, you go to a workplace and you're basically an employee there. And so it gives you like real job experience to see whether you'd enjoy doing that. And a lot of people can get co-op placements like at different places. For example, you can get a co-op placement at a hospital, pharmacy. I'm sure like engineering, you can also get a co-op placement there at different like engineering places, depending on what type of engineering you're interested in, whether it's aerospace engineering, civil engineering. Co-op is a great opportunity to get real life job experience and see whether this is something you're really interested in. If you don't want to do co-op, maybe you could see if you could volunteer over the summer at some place and see whether they'd be open to doing that, and just reach out to people. But co-op usually is the best way to go about that in high school. And you also get credit for that, so it's really great. So yeah. I'm interested in business and science, but don't really know what exactly. Yeah, that's totally valid and that's totally fair. Like people, you can't limit people to one interest. Like there are lots of people who have many strengths and many interests. So again, yeah, I would recommend checking out the KI Knowledge Integration Program at Waterloo, because they allow you to explore all of your interests. And they're really great for people who don't really know what they want to do yet and want to explore their options. Do you think business at York is a great program? So yeah, business at York is a great program. The top 3 kind of business programs in Ontario is York Schulich, Queen's Commerce, and Western, BMOS, and Ivy. Those are generally considered to be like the big 3 in terms of business programs in Ontario. So York is really up there, and they have a really strong business program. Okay, what types of marks matter most in the first semester? Is it midterms or finals? Well, definitely both of them will be taken into consideration, but in terms of which ones matter most, it would definitely be finals. The 2 sets of marks that matter the most is first semester final marks and second semester midterm marks, because these are the marks that universities will take into consideration for all of the major admission rounds. And so for most programs, it depends varying on the program, but for most programs, the major admission rounds are in December, March, and May, and by those times you will likely have your at least for March and May, you will have your first semester final, and then in May you'll have your first semester final and second semester midterm. Let's see the next question. Do you know anything about life sciences at Mac? Yeah, I have a lot of friends who go to life sciences at Mac, and we have a bunch of interviews on our website from students who went to life sciences at Mac. It's a good program for the sciences. It's strong, and it's really well developed. I will say last year they had kind of an admission not a scandal, but a lot of people were upset last year for admissions, because typically the admission average for McMaster Life Sciences is around a mid-80 range, low to mid-80s. But last year, due to a lot of inflation and online school and kind of miscalculations on their part, a lot of students were getting rejected with 93 averages. And so this is not to worry you guys, but hopefully this issue should be resolved since most of you are back in school this year. But in terms of actual content life sciences, I know that the program is fairly big. I believe it's around 800 to 1,000 students, so it's quite a large program. And the style of learning there is mostly lecture style compared to health sciences, which is more collaborative and case study based. So if you work best with lecture style and learning from a textbook and that kind of thing, then you may want to consider life sciences, but also consider that it is a fairly big program. And so you don't have the benefit of, smaller class sizes and profs maybe knowing your name and that kind of thing. But in terms of actual hard sciences, it's a good program for that. Let's see. So do you think it's important to get a high GPA and so to go to York and Ryerson? If so, okay. So I think, well, obviously you want to try your best in grade 11 and 12 to get a high GPA, just to better your chances and hopefully be able to get in some of the earlier admission rounds, just so you are kind of relaxed and you have options. So definitely recommend getting a high GPA regardless of where you want to go. Just try your best to learn and apply yourself and get a high GPA. But in terms of York and Ryerson, I would definitely check the programs either on My Blueprint or directly on their website to see their grade range and grade cutoff, to see what the range you should be aiming for is. Do you think a gap year is worth it? For some people, it definitely is. For some people after high school, a lot of friends of mine felt super burnt out, or for example, they didn't really know what they wanted to do, or maybe they wanted to gain some work experience or life experience before, they head into this huge commitment of, 4 years of university. So I definitely wouldn't discredit the merit of taking a gap year. It can be very beneficial for some people, but for other people, they just want to get into their degree and be able to graduate as quick as possible. So it really just depends on you and what you want. If you have the financial ability to either go to university or take a gap year, that's something to definitely take into consideration. And also just whether, you want to get work experience or maybe travel for a year. and get to know yourself more, that's definitely something to take into consideration, because a gap year can really do that for you. Or if you want to travel but don't want to take a gap year, there's a bunch of study abroad programs within universities that you can do. Even in first year, there's a lot of programs that allow you to travel and study abroad. What classes do you recommend taking for political science bachelor's? So for political science programs, usually the only required course is ENG4U if you're in Ontario, and then 5 other U/M courses. So those are the only required ones. But other than that, I would recommend taking what you're interested in. If you're interested in political science, maybe you'd also, be interested in taking the grade 12 law course. Maybe you'd be interested in taking philosophy. These are kind of like, related strands. Maybe you'd be interested in taking psychology. But it all depends on your interest. As long as you meet those requirements, it doesn't really matter what you take. And typically, if you're going to studying political science, in first year, you might just be put into like a general arts program. And then from there, you get to major in political sciences. So from there, you'll be able to take a bunch of political science related courses. Okay, what's the difference between life science and social science at Mac? So life science is more focused on like the hard sciences, like physics, biology, chemistry, whereas social sciences might explore like some of the other types of sciences like psychology, sociology, anthropology, some of the courses you may have taken in high school. So that's the main difference. Where do you find the grade cutoffs? That's a great question. You can find it on Blueprint. However, sometimes the grade cutoffs on my Blueprint, are outdated or inaccurate. So I would definitely recommend going to the actual program website, and usually they'll list it there. And if not, like 9 times out of 10, they'll have the program cutoff on their website. But if not, you can always email the admissions and they'll get back to you. Also, do you guys know what the difference is between the grade cutoff versus the grade range? Because that's really important to know. If you guys don't know, I can take like 2 minutes to explain that. Let me know if you're interested in knowing the difference. I've heard that people are failing at Waterloo. Waterloo is definitely, like, out of all the Ontario universities, it's definitely more academically rigorous. But then again, in a lot of universities, students find that in first year their marks drop a lot, just because the content, the pace, and like the amount of content you have to cover within such a short amount of time, like it dramatically increases. And so for some people, that transition, especially going from like, living at home with your parents to living by yourself, cooking for yourself, maybe like partying or just like a bunch of other distractions, can lower their marks. But that's like all across the board at every university, not just specifically at Waterloo. It all depends on how you manage your time, but obviously some schools are more known to be academically rigorous than others. For example, U of T or Waterloo. Oh, I meant like picking the university based on being able to get a high GPA like York or Ryerson. That's debatable. Like every school, if you apply yourself, you can get a high GPA, but I get what you mean. Like some schools are way harder to get a high GPA. For example, like I said, the more academically rigorous ones, U of T or Waterloo. But I don't think your main criterion should be if you're able to get a high GPA, because, for the schools who aren't like super well known for being academically rigorous, generally you can get a high GPA there if you just work hard and apply yourself, just like at any school. So I don't think that should be your main criteria, but it's definitely something to consider. And also, if you're interested in applying to like graduate schools, GPA does matter. So I see, where you might be prioritizing that. But at the end of the day, if it's a great program and you love where you're going, then, and you love what you're studying, then, you'll be able to achieve that high GPA. What are unis where you can apply for more than one program? So for each Ontario university through OUAC, you can apply to 3 programs within that university. Can you apply to Queen's Health Sciences without being part of the Quorum's program? Yes, you can. You don't have to be a part of Quorum's to be in Queen's Health Sciences. Oh, so someone asked, what is the difference between grade cutoff, and grade range. So this is actually a really important concept. So let me see if I can illustrate this on my iPad. Okay. Hope you guys can see that. So basically the cutoff is like the range. It's like the number to the where they like won't look at your application. Let me give you an example. For example, let's say Mac Health Sci. Their grade cutoff is a 90%. So if you have something lower than a 90%, let's say you have an 88% average, they won't look at your application. They'll throw it out. You have to have the minimum of 90% for them to even consider your application. So that's a cutoff. They will cut you off if you don't meet this number. However, a grade range, for example, let's say Ryerson Biomed Sci. Their grade range might be from low 80s to mid 80s. And so what this means, this is the typical range of students who get accepted into their program, is within this range. So obviously you always want to aim to be above the grade range to, ensure a better chance for yourself. But yeah, that's what grade range means. And cutoff is if you don't get this cutoff or higher, then they'll just throw out your application. So yeah, that's what that means. If I want to end up doing neuroscience, would it be better to do social or life science? See, that's a great question because there's a lot of gray area there, because a lot of neuroscience could be taken from like the psychological perspective, which applies more to social sciences. So like neuropsychology, neuroplasticity, like a lot of those topics can be covered in social sciences. But if you're more interested in like the mechanics of like neuroscience and like that kind of thing, I would recommend going into life sciences. But also I would again recommend like reaching out to someone who is in one of those programs, because they can tell you like if the program has like a specialization or like courses offered that relate to neuroscience. And so the way to find people in those programs, well, one way is we have a bunch of interviews from people in McMaster Health Sciences on our website that are completely free to view. And usually what students do is they'll contact those people, because those people give us, like our interviewees give us their like email or Instagram or whatever, so you can contact them and ask them their questions and they're very helpful. They've helped so many of our students, and they're a great way. Another way, you can also find people on LinkedIn who are in McMaster Life Sciences or social sciences and ask them like their opinion on the program. And also another way is just to go onto the website of Life Sciences and see if you can find, the courses offered in 3rd or 4th year that you can maybe take to specialize into neurosciences or really pursue that passion of yours. So yeah. Doesn't matter if a required course for your uni program is low, but the top 6 average is high. It's good to keep your top 6 average high, but the required courses are also taken into account because those courses directly apply to the content you will be learning in the program. So for example, physics directly applies to engineering programs. So you're going to want to keep your required course marks high as well. Will physics lower my GPA? Wow, I was just talking about physics. Physics, for some people, they really enjoy physics. It depends on the kind of person you are. If you're more logical, analytical, if you like to solve problems, and if you like, something that can sometimes be considered mentally challenging, then physics might seem right for you. But if you took grade 11 physics and you found it to be super challenging, and, you don't want to risk that lowering your GPA, then obviously there are other options for you to take. But if it's a required course for your program, then you have to take grade 12 physics. There's no way around it. So yeah, it's definitely a mixed bag, but a lot of people consider physics to be difficult. But for some people, it's just about like whether they like to problem solve and whether they like having that, mental challenge. So will they look at my first semester midterms? I have a high grade 11 average, but my first semester midterms are not that great. So let me pull up this calendar that I was using for our last video, and I think it might help to explain. Okay, so if you guys rotate your screen, this is an overview of your grade 12 school year. So basically around mid-October, you'll be getting your OUAC pins, and then mid-November, you'll get your midterms. And so basically you can receive offers anytime from around early November to late May. And so the schools will work with what grades they have. So for example, if here they only have like midterms, it depends. I remember last year, because of quadmesters, the quadmester midterms were not uploaded. So if you're doing a quadmester system, your midterms might not be uploaded. But if you're doing a semestered system, your midterms will likely be uploaded. And you can double check this by going onto the OUAC website, and they have a section called like important dates, and it says what days marks will be uploaded. And we also have a section on our website that has these dates and deadlines, so you can check that too. But yeah, usually midterms are uploaded, but once you get your finals in February, then that's all they're going to consider. They're not going to consider your midterms anymore. They just consider them because that's the only grade 12 grades they have at the time. So if you're stressing about your midterms, don't worry too much, because once you get your finals, you still have like 3 or 4 months and 2 big admission rounds in March and May to be enrolled and admitted. But yeah, overall, try to bring your finals up. The marks that matter most for admissions are usually first semester finals and second semester midterms, because as you can see, around late May is the last day to receive offers. So your second semester finals aren't considered, basically. You just need to meet the conditional offer. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Let's see. Doesn't matter how many choices I have for programs. No, it doesn't matter. I would generally recommend like a max of 5 to 7, because I know a lot of students who apply to so much because they're anxious that they won't get in, or they don't know what they want to do, so they apply to 10 or more. And for a lot of students, that can be like a waste of money, because it is that, like, for 10 applications, that would be $500. And also at the end of the day, it's easier to apply to 3 programs that you really want to get in and apply to 2 other safety schools than it is to apply to 10 programs and then be kind of confused about what you want to do. But if you're really unsure of what you want to do, if you have mixed interests in like both engineering and social sciences, then feel free to apply to as many as you want. It does not affect the application at all. Is it hard to get into Rottman's commerce? Yeah, it's generally considered difficult. Most commerce programs are difficult to get into, but the big 3 for commerce programs are York Schulich, Western, BMOS and Ivy, and Queen's Commerce. And then Rottman Commerce, I would say, is like the 4th. It's fairly difficult, but if you keep your GPA up and do all the necessary supplementary stuff, then you'll be good. How to apply for early acceptance. Oh yeah, great question. We literally posted a video about this yesterday, so feel free to go check that out. And it kind of explains, a lot of people are confused about like what early acceptance is. Like, do I have to submit a separate application for early acceptance? What is it? How do I get it? And so we answer all of those questions in our video that we posted yesterday. But they said they won't upload midterm marks. Okay, as long as on OUAC and your guidance counselor said they won't upload midterm marks, then you have nothing to worry about. But yeah, double check with OUAC and their upload dates, because they have certain like dates that they upload grades. Does my English mark matter if I want to get into math and stats program? It depends on your program's requirements. Most programs, their basic requirement is ENG for U, and then like a few other courses, maybe like 5 other U/M courses. So it depends on your program's requirements. If your program requires ENG for U, then obviously that mark matters and you need to take that course. How many programs can I apply to? As far as I know, there's no limit to programs. I'm sure there is some limit, like don't go applying to like 50. But like if you want to apply to like 10 to 15, there's no limit. But for each university, for example, Queen's University, you can only apply to 3 programs at Queen's, or U of T, you can only apply to 3. So it's 3 programs per university. Is the social working program at York hard to get into? In order to check that, I would recommend going to their website and seeing their grade range to determine that. And if they don't have a supplementary application, then that means they're just basing your admissions off of your grades. And as long as you're within the grade range, or I would personally aim to be above the grade range, then you will likely get in. I would also try to speak to a student who's in that program to get their opinion. Is it fine if my ENG 4U is lower for the math and stats program, but my average is 90 plus? Yeah, so universities take your top 6 average, including your required courses. So as long as your average is really high, it doesn't matter if, let's say, for example, in advanced functions, you got a 96, but in ENG 4U, you got an 88. But in all your other courses, you're getting 90s. As long as the average is still high, that it doesn't matter if one course is a bit lower. So I can only apply to 3 programs per university or per campus? Per university. So York University, for example, you can only apply to 3 programs. Is there a program at U of T which offers exposure to both business and social sciences courses? So yeah, I would start by looking at Rottman Commerce because that's a very popular program. I would start by looking there and seeing how many required courses they make you take in first year, second year, third year, and so on and so forth. Because if you have a lot of elective space in your program, then you can take social science courses. Generally, if you have electives, it doesn't really matter what course you take. It's your elective. You're free to take whatever course you want. And I would also look into Rottman Commerce and see if they would allow you to take a minor in social science. Yeah, only three programs per university, unfortunately, yeah. Which business programs are best? That's a great question. So generally, it depends on you and what you're looking for in a program. But based on popular opinion, the big 3 in Ontario, like what's considered the big 3 in terms of business, is Queen's Commerce, Western, BMOS, and Ivy, and York Schulich. Those are considered the big 3 for business and commerce programs. But again, like just because they're considered the best by the vast majority doesn't mean they might be right for you. Like a big things to consider would be, campus. Do you like the culture at the school? For example, if you're not really into partying, Queens and Western, they're very much party schools. There's so much to consider. Proximity to home. Like, how are you going to get there? Are you going to live on res? There's a lot of important things to consider. Okay, let's see. Do they look at grade 11 marks? If so, how much do they care about it? Great question. Let me pull up the diagram I was using earlier to help explain it, because I feel like it just helps to kind of visualize it. So if you can imagine, this is your grade 12 school year from September all the way to end of June, right? And so around mid-October, you'll get your OUAC pins. And then here's where you get marks. You get your midterms mid-November, finals early February, if you're in a semestered system, that is, which I assume most of you are. And so you can start to receive university applications anytime after you submit your OUAC application. So that's around like early November all the way to late May, which is, your last day to receive offers. Okay, so during that period, universities will use whatever marks they have available to them to assess you. So, for example, let's say you receive an offer in like December. At that point, they only have your first semester midterms, which is like 3 to 4 courses, depending on if you have a spare. And so universities take your top 6 into account. So where do they get the other 3? Let's say you only have 3 courses. Where do they get the other 3? They will use your grade 11 marks for the required courses. So to give you a more specific example, like let's say you are taking ENG4U in second semester, okay? And let's say ENG4U is a required course for your program. Then in that case, if they're considering your application from like November all the way to when you get second semester midterms, and they're going to use that ENG3U mark. But as soon as they get your grade 12 marks, they will take those into consideration. They will not take your grade 11 marks into consideration. So if you're worried that your grade 11 marks weren't that high, then no worries, because you're going to start to get grade 12 marks here, and and then you have 2 big admission rounds in March and May. So yeah, and then by the time you get your second semester midterms and you have your first semester finals, then only grade 12 marks will be taken into account. So yeah, I hope that helps to explain it. Let me just erase this so I can use this again. I find that this graphic is really helpful, like explaining. I hope you guys are finding it helpful, and yeah, let's continue with the questions. Okay, let's see. How do you get a double bachelor's, like a dual degree? There's some schools that offer it and some schools that don't. Again, it just depends on the school. You mentioned that you were interested in U of T, so I would definitely recommend looking into it, doing your research on that, and then maybe speaking to the admissions team or a student who goes there who does a double degree. But we have so many interviews from U of T, like proportionally compared to other universities. I think we have the most interviews from students at U of T, so I would definitely recommend checking those out. And a lot of those students have done dual degrees. So I'll give you an example. Let me go on to our website. So this is our website. It's in our bio. And so basically, you can click on to universities. If my internet wants to cooperate. Yeah, so as you can see, we have this huge list of universities that you can go to. So if we go to U of T, yeah, so there's UTM, UTSC, and U of T St. George campus. This is the downtown Toronto campus. So as you can see, we have so many interviews from this university. And a lot of them, I believe, have done dual degrees. Wait, let me just double check for you. U of T pharmacology, neuroscience, and psychology students. So yeah, here they talk about kind of their journey. So for example, this is Michelle. She's doing a pharmacology and biomedical toxicology specialist, neuroscience major, and psychology minor. So as you can see, you can really do a bunch of like diverse things. Like you can do specialist, like a specialist distinction, a neuroscience major, and you can also do a minor. And I believe she is in life sciences at University of Toronto. So as you can see, they really allow you to specialize. But yeah, I would recommend reaching out to her. She's actually really helpful, and she does a lot of like other mentorship and advocacy work. So yeah, her information is here. But yeah, we have a bunch of other interviews as well from U of T students if you're interested in that. Okay. What can I write about in my supplementary application if I couldn't really take on extracurriculars due to COVID? Obviously you're not alone in this. Everyone experienced COVID, and everyone's extracurriculars were stunted due to them like just not being offered. So I would say try to work with what you have. If you did extracurriculars in grade 9 or 10, like don't discredit those. Mention them if you want to. But generally, like the majority of supplementary applications that are coming out this year aren't, like from what I've seen, they're taking this into account, and they aren't really asking like questions related to extracurriculars. So for example, I saw the Queen Supplementary application the other day, and it was asking about what kind of change or impact you want to make in the world. And then another question was, no, I forget, but it's something related to that, and it wasn't really asking about extracurriculars. So if worse comes to worse and your supplementary application do ask about extracurriculars, try to use what you have. Like, nothing is too small. Like, if you used to babysit for kids in your neighborhood, that's something great to put on your application. That shows that you're responsible, that you have good organization, good management, that you can, coordinate with parents and, interact with children and that kind of thing. Or if you used to walk dogs or mow lawns, there's nothing that is too small or insignificant to put on your application. So that's my advice. Should I apply now for university, or is it too late? It's definitely not too late. Definitely not too late. You can, if you're applying to Ontario, you can still submit your OUAC application. I believe the deadline to submit it is January 15th, so you are definitely not too late. Go ahead, apply, try your best, and definitely not too late. You should apply. What is Ocass, and where can I learn how to use it? Great question. So Ocass is the Ontario. It's the system which you use to apply to Ontario colleges, and we actually have a section on our website to show you how to use Ocass and OUAC. So if you go from our website to the resources tab right here, then you can see here. Let me just hold this for you guys. We have our scholarship guide. We have, if you're interested in SHAD, we have some interviews about that, spreadsheets, and then here we have OUAC and Ocass. So what is it? Find out how to apply and get ahead. So if you click that, you come onto this page. And so the Ocass is the Ontario College Application Service. This is what it looks like. Here's your base fee. Here's how you pay. Here are some tips. What marks are used. This answers basically any of your questions related to OUAC and Ocass. What marks are used for my application? How do I respond to offers? If you're applying outside of Ontario, how to apply. This section of our website is really great if you want to know what OUAC or Ocass is and how to use it. The deadline for applications, I'm not sure about the specific deadline for this year, but it's always around January 15th. So I would recommend checking out OUAC. Let me see if I can find it for you right now. Let's see. OUAC. They usually have it listed directly on their website. It's usually around. Oh, here you go. So the deadline is January 13th. That's the deadline for Ontario high school students to submit their application to OUAC. So January 13th. You have a lot of time, but I would definitely recommend getting it in before Christmas break. So you can, if you have any supplementary applications, you can work on those over the break. The earlier the better. My grade 12 midterms are terrible, and I'm concerned that'll stop me from getting to a decent school. I feel you. The transition to grade 12 can definitely be rough, especially going back to in-school after you guys have been online for so long. But take into account that the main grades that will be considered for your university applications are your first semester final and second semester midterm marks. So if you try to boost your grades up from your midterm as much as possible, then hopefully you can recover from that. But also at the same time, a lot of schools are not uploading midterms to OUAC. So I would definitely recommend checking with your school, check in with OUAC. Are your midterm grades being uploaded? Because some midterm grades aren't being uploaded at all for some schools. So I would definitely recommend checking that. And if your grade 12 midterms aren't being uploaded, then great. You can just work really hard to get your finals up, and then it shouldn't be a problem. How do minors benefit you? So for a lot of people, they have a variety of interests. So for example, they might be interested in neuroscience, but they're also interested in psychology, and they want to do both. But, for example, let's say they're more passionate about neuroscience, then they can take a psychology minor so that, they also get the distinction that they, have a lot of experience studying psychology, so they have that psychology minor that they can, put on their degree, but at the same time, their major is neuroscience. So it kind of allows you to explore your interests, and, if you're interested in a variety of things, it allows you to do that. My school didn't give us pins yet. That's okay. I mean, a lot of schools, it really just depends. I remember my school was very late to the game. I think we got them mid-November. At the end of the day, you're going to be able to apply. What I would recommend is kind of not putting pressure, be nice to your guidance counselors, but maybe just email them and ask. And for my school, what happened was, we emailed them and asked, and literally the next week they gave it to us, within 3 days. So yeah, sometimes reaching out to them can be a big help. Anyone here applying for TD scholarship? Oh, if you're applying for TD scholarship, we actually interviewed TD scholars on our website. So if you go to the resources section and you go to the scholarship guide, we give you a scholarship database and bank that you can apply to. We also tell you what types of scholarships there are and how you can apply to them. And so yeah, if you're interested in applying to the TD, we interviewed Chinemarim, and he is such a cool guy, so awesome. He was very helpful. But yeah, he answered a bunch of questions that, are related to that. I'll give you an example. If you could go back in time knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself upon preparing for the application of the TD scholarship? Why do you think you won the scholarship? If there was an interview, what were some of the questions asked? How did you prepare? And he also shared his stats and extracurriculars if you're interested in checking that out. So yeah, and there's also information about TD. Yeah, there's Chinemarim. You can also reach out to him. He's a really great guy, super helpful. So yeah, we put his information there if you're interested. What scholarships do you recommend applying to that aren't too competitive? Great question, because a lot of the time students go for the scholarships the really big ones, the big three, TD, Schulich, and what's the other one? Loran. But oftentimes these scholarships are oversaturated. They're getting thousands and thousands of student applications, and a lot of really qualified and talented students just don't make it for whatever reason. Maybe the person who's reading their application was having a bad day, But for smaller applications, it's way easier to, get it. And what's funny? Millions of dollars of scholarship money go unclaimed every year because no one applies. There are so many scholarships where you just have to write a quick 200-word essay and you can get it. For example, I saw one last year. It was exactly that. You write a 200-word essay about sustainable energy and they would give the winner $2,500. And on the database, it said that no one applied yet. And so you can apply to that, and just because no one else applied, you will get the scholarship. So how to find them. Here we put, so we have our scholarship databases. So there's Scholarship Canada, which you can sign up with them, and they match you up to scholarships based on the eligibility criteria and your interests. Let's say you're interested in knitting. They have knitting scholarships that you can do. There's also a lot of other scholarship databases. And what else? Oh, if your parent works with a company, for example, RBC or BMO or just any other company, typically the companies offer scholarships for the children of the employees. So you can apply to that, and typically there aren't too many people who apply for those. I would also recommend applying to specific university scholarships. So for example, Queen's Chancellor Scholarship or Western National Scholarships. Or if you're employed, you can possibly get an scholarship through your place of employment or through organizations and clubs. So two good ones I'll give you right now that are medium size to small size, and they're a decently good scholarship is Horatio Alger. Horatio Alger offers medium-sized scholarships for anyone who's interested in entrepreneurship or anyone who's has financial need, or if you've gone through certain things in your life. They definitely take that into account. So Horatio Alger. And then another one would be Kin Canada. So Kin Canada is a company they offer like medium-sized scholarships, and their scholarship program is not that well known, so I would definitely recommend checking them out. So yeah, overall, our scholarship guide will basically help you if you want to see interviews from some of the big scholarships, or we also have an interview from Horatio Alger, which is pretty great. And yeah, we also tell you like what kind of scholarships you can apply for and some databases where you can access scholarships. So if you're interested in that, feel free to check it out. Let's see. What's the next question? Guys, Project Uni is the best. Thank you. Appreciate it. When should I apply to OSAP? Yeah, so should you apply to OSAP? Don't worry about that now. That's more in, second semester and even during the summer. So, yeah, on the OSAP website, it says like when the start date is. It's usually in the spring, so spring 2022. Once you get accepted into university and you enroll, then you can start worrying about OSAP. And, maybe we'll create a video on how to do OSAP, because that was something that was very confusing for me as well. And I'm sure it's something that some of you might be worried about. So that's a great idea, actually. Let's see, another question. Anything for colleges of planning to attend Algonquin College? Yeah, that's a great question. So, on our Discord server, we have a bunch of, let me see. If you go to our link tree, we have our Discord server. And on our Discord server, we have a lot of university and college students who are there to help, high school students who may have questions. And we have one college student on there who's really active. I believe he might go, I think he goes to Algonquin or maybe Algoma. But if you have any questions about that, I would recommend going there. If you have any questions about how to actually apply to college, we have a section on our website in the resources section called OUAC and Ocass, and basically it gives you a guide on Ocass, which is the Ontario College Application Service, and like what the base fees are, how you can apply, when you should apply by, and that kind of thing. So that might be helpful for you as well. And yeah, in terms of colleges, we are planning to expand our interview database to include more colleges. But as we're doing that, you can join our Discord server and ask the college students on there any questions you might have. How do I know which university to pick? That's a great question. Thank you for asking. So yeah, picking your university is definitely a difficult decision, and you should take into account a lot of different factors. So one resource I would recommend to you, let me just pull it up. We have a resource called the Program Decision Matrix, which we are planning to release in December. But basically what that is it's like almost like an Excel spreadsheet where you get to score criteria based on what matters to you. Like, do you care about living close to home? Do you want to live on residence? Do you care about if it's a party school or not? And so basically it helps you take into consideration all of those criterion and kind of score them, and then you add up the score, and then that can help you make your decision. So for example, this is still a work in progress. But yeah, it would be based on how much you value it, how important it is to you. So for example, student life. Is student life important to you? Do you care if it's academically rigorous or if it's more of a party school? Quality of their extracurriculars, their living accommodations. Do you want to be close to your family? Tuition. So all of these factors, it's obviously a tough decision, and it's definitely one that you guys should think over for a while. Don't make a snap decision, but taking into account all of these factors and possibly using this resource when we release it in December can hopefully help you make your decision. And no matter where you go, your program is what you make of it. So yeah, thank you for that question. Do you have any supplementary application advice for us? Great question. Thank you for asking. So yeah, supplementary applications are definitely difficult. And they take a while to kind of think about. It depends on what type of supplementary application you're using. So for example, some universities, their supplementary application asks about your extracurriculars, so that you would use a different approach. Whereas other universities, their supplementary application includes an actual live interview. Others have, a portfolio you have to submit. Some have, these really weird, bizarre, unrelated questions. And so I can briefly talk about each of these. So portfolio is typically for visual arts or music or that kind of thing. And basically they just want to see your talent, see you show off your talent, basically. Interviews can be for a bunch of different programs. It could be for commerce programs. It could be for engineering programs. So yeah. And extracurricular base, I know the Waterloo AIF asks about extracurriculars. Queen Sup app, which is used for commerce, health sci, and neuroscience, health sci and nursing. Could also potentially ask about extracurriculars or like have opportunity to mention that. And in terms of bizarre questions, the first one that comes to mind is Mac Health Sci, because they ask like questions that are completely unrelated to your extracurriculars, and their priority is just to see like how do you think, and like what's your thought process, how do you problem solve, and to see if you would be a good fit for the program. And so generally, if you are the most popular kind is generally like the extracurricular kind. And so for that, the recommended method is to follow the STAR method. And so what that means is like structuring your paragraphs so that you talk about what was the situation, what was the task, what action did you take, and what was the result. And so what I find for a lot of the supplementary applications that I read and review is that a lot of students tend to put a lot of fluff and they tend to use up their word count. You want to make sure that each sentence you put is impactful, and each sentence can further describe to the school why you are a good fit for that program. So a good way to do that is the STAR method. It helps keep you concise and it helps make sure that every sentence is impactful. So I'll give you an example of a question. Let's say they're asking, tell us about a time where you showed leadership or you were a leader. First, you start off by describing the situation. Let's use Project Uni as an example. So the situation was, due to COVID-19, university fairs and campus tours were canceled and students were disconnected from information about their universities. So the task was, a group of students decided, to start this social initiative to help students connect with the advice and resources they need. And then what action did I take? What specific action did I do? I, started a website. I interviewed university students in my network. I blah, 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 blah action. And also you can do like a general impact statement of like quantitative, like for example, we amassed 27,000 followers on TikTok. But if you could also do like a personal impact, like for example, like this really strengthened my personal leadership skills, and also it taught me what it really meant to collaborate with others, because I was working with a team of 10 people or blah 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 blah. But quantitative is great and you should mention it, and that's great, but also make sure to include the personal impact. This is a lot of the times I see this missing from applications. And then results. So what happened? Were you guys able to help students? But yeah, generally STAR method. If you guys want a better explanation than that, it's a very popular method. You can search it up. So it's 6:57. So we're going to wrap up the live at 7. So if you have any last minute questions, you can kind of try to do a lightning round. Let's see. Where do we apply for scholarships? Again, recommend checking out the scholarship databases. On our website, we have a scholarship guide. It's in our link tree. If you click the link in our bio, we have a scholarship guide there, and it shows you like the scholarship databases you can apply. What's the best program to go into for law? There's no specific program. Law is a graduate program, so you're going to want to do an undergraduate program. For example, I'll give an example, but any program is generally good to go into law. But Queen's Commerce does they have an option where you can apply to get your JD in third year, I believe. And so we have a bunch of interviews from commerce students on our website, so I would recommend reaching out to them and doing your research. Very cool. Okay, what interviews do you have for McMaster? We have a lot of interviews for McMaster. Let me just briefly pull them up. Sorry if I'm going fast. I'm just trying to get to them all before we have to wrap up the live. so McMaster University. Yeah, we have social work, poli-science, and philosophy, health sci, life sci, nursing. Yeah, we have all of these interviews. So if you're interested in checking them out, link in our bio. How to prepare for university after accepting my offer? Great question. Thank you for asking. So how to prepare for university after accepting your offer? Most of the time, high school students like to take the summer after grade 12 to just relax, because, high school is generally very stressful, and they want to take the summer to relax before university. But one big difference I'll tell you between high school and university is the pace of the content. So in high school, you had 10 months, your school year was 10 months, and each semester was 5 months. But in university, it is 4 months per semester for a total of 8 months, and you have 5 courses that you're taking. And so each of these courses can be content dense, and you have to cover a lot really quickly. And so one thing I would recommend is preparing for university by figuring out your living situation, figuring out OSAP, how are you going to pay for university, applying to general bursaries, also figuring out how you're going to take notes. A lot of students make the move from paper notes to typed or iPad notes. But generally, this is something that you guys don't really have to worry about right now, because, right now you're just working on applying and filling out your supplementary application. So I would definitely recommend focusing on getting those grades up. Don't get anxious about OSAP or whether you're going to do typed or written notes. Right now, just focus on doing the best that you can, doing the sub-apps to the best of your ability. And I want to remind you guys that at the end of the day, regardless of where you go, your program is what you make of it. And you are the one that's going to succeed. Your program is not going to define your success. So yeah, I would just want to wrap up by saying that. So again, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. This is part of our Saturday streams. And so we go live every Saturday from 6 to 7 p.m. Make sure to follow us, and also to check out our YouTube, link in bio, as well as any interviews. If you have any other comments, make sure to go to our website. We have members on there 24/7 to answer your questions. If you go to our website, actually, I'll show you guys right now. Do you see that little corner? Here, let me show you. Yeah, we have that little corner there that says let's chat. And so you can talk to our members on there anytime and ask any of your questions. So if we didn't get to your question today, make sure to ask there. And again, be sure to tune into our lives next Saturday. And yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it, and have a good evening, and also have a good weekend.